I'm going to be going over all the McQueen stuff that I own. And the reason I'm doing this now specifically is because Sarah Burton stepped down from her role as creative director of McQueen. And she worked with McQueen really closely. She started as an intern and then progressed all the way to creative director. Like, it's crazy, and she's super talented. And I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't really necessarily always appreciate her because her style and theatricality is different to Lee's. But realistically, my whole relationship with the brand is like her stuff. And I love McQueen. I still love McQueen. And I feel like I want to do this to like give her flowers, and also to kind of showcase like why of all the fashion brands do I really only know and really focus on McQueen. Part of the reason I like McQueen is because it is the first fashion brand that I was really exposed to. When I saw like Gaga wearing things, or when I saw pieces from McQueen like this dress, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, you get the sense that he was creating in order to process, in order to survive. And I'm like, that's so much of like my artistic sense. It's like, I have to do this or else I just can't make sense of the world. I just can't make sense of myself. And I really appreciate like this queer man making like such artistic, bold, like boundary pushing stuff, and that his legacy was like so carefully preserved by Sarah Burton, who like clearly so admired, so appreciated the essence of this brand. I just love it. It's so stupid. The first McQueen store I ever went to was in Vegas, even though I live in LA, and there is one in Beverly Hills, and I'm dumb. But the store clerk like could tell that I was like a super fan, but I was also just a middle school student with no money. So she gave me this like little catalog of the accessories from the 2011 winter collection. And then she also gave me this sunglass case, which is really cute. I like really appreciated it because like she didn't have to do anything, and I was like really happy to own just anything because I knew my parents at the time would not buy it for me, which is very reasonable because middle school children do not need designer clothes. But I went to that Vegas store multiple times in the same trip just because like I loved it. And the other store clerk, I think on the day that we were leaving, he recommended I buy the Savage Beauty book based on the Met exhibit. So it showcases a lot of his looks over time, and also like gives like descriptions. You can see over here that the dress from Saraband is also one that I later painted in high school, because I just find this like dress so like beautiful and like moving, and I'm like also just like a really big florals person, and I like really love and cherish this book, and I keep it in like multiple plastic bags to keep it safe ever since I bought it in 2011. But yeah, I have a few things in my apartment that I'm gonna showcase here. I'm going to go over all the McQueen stuff I own in chronological order, and I'm gonna probably talk about like why I bought it, the collection it's from, anything it's inspired personally, my relationship with it, etc. I actually don't know the first McQueen thing I own. I have two things that are like pretty early on in my journey with the brand, and I don't know the dates. But I have this wool skull scarf, and I love this thing. The skull scarf is like a huge accessory for the brand, and I know it was like very popular. And I think when you're first diving into like a luxury fashion house, you are kind of like drawn to the classics. It's like, oh, you're drawn to it because it's really obvious to everyone, like, oh, you are now like a part of this thing. Like, that's part of like the belonging that people like want when they have fashion. The really popular accessory is the silk scarf, and I was a high school student, and I was like, I can't justify wanting a silk scarf. You can't just like pull up to your public school and like, woo! I was like, okay, I can maybe beg my mom for the wool one. At least it's like kind of practical, even though we live in the suburbs of LA. Like, maybe it's cold in winter. Despite that, I still like wore this scarf whenever I could. So like whenever it was like mildly chilly or like at a speech and debate tournament. I remember wearing this in the morning once and a mom complimented me, so I was like, woo, cool. Recognition. But yeah, I like, this is the item that I like always have on me. I like bring on with trips just in case. And I've now have had this maybe like 13 years. And because I've worn it a good number of times, it now has this little hole in it. It's not very big. I can definitely fix this, especially now that I'm learning how to sew. Woo. Because of that little hole, I felt like really bad. I was like, oh, I wasn't taking care of this, or like I wore this too much, and I just put it away for a long time. But after like reevaluating my relationship with it, I was like, no, like clothing is meant to be worn. Sure, it will get worn down. Sure, it will not be as perfect or as beautiful as a new version of this, but this is my version of the scarf. And it inspired this painting, which I would take a new fresh canvas and then just like walk it around the streets of SF. And I did this even during the rain. And I looked crazy and people were walking their dogs at night and I was just like, yes, I'm walking a fucking canvas, whatever. And after like every session of walking this around, I would just like cover it in white acrylic paint in kind of like a futile attempt to keep it new. And I think like at first glance, you're like, oh yeah, that's a white canvas. But if you like look really closely at like in this corner, if there wasn't paint, you just see like wood and maybe a hole. And white is just like desperately trying to fill the crevices or like smooth out the texture of being like battered and torn. And the idea is kind of like something that is like preserved or kept or cherished is different than something that is genuinely new. And you can't make those equal to each other. And it is impossible to. And I think by getting over that something is not new, that something is not like virginal, that something is like not as it once was, this canvas, if it's just always white, isn't gonna be the final art piece. But like the process of doing this, of like trying to keep it, that has made it an art piece in and of itself. And I think that's redefined kind of like my relationship with my clothing. It's like, even if something is nice, I want to cherish it in a way that is like personal to me. And that means wearing it. Another thing the skull scarf inspired is this t-shirt that I made. I originally just painted the I'm happy one day just to see if oil paint works on t-shirts. I did this in college and I would wear this shirt sometimes, but I'm like, it's kind of ugly and stupid and it seems a little cry for helpy. Last year, I was getting into embroidery, and so I wanted to combine my love for McQueen with like some like art backgrounds. And so I made this like print, and the skull, I like directly just like looked at one of the skulls on my scarf and then just extended the mouth so that I could add the embroidery. And it's like not meant to be like a very like clear, concise idea. It's more just like an exploration of lots of like themes and things that I personally have like returned to in the past. So that's all just for the scarf. I promise the other ones are not going to be so rambly and intense. The other thing that might be the first McQueen thing I own, not sure, is this silk bow tie. I had a huge bow tie phase in high school because gay. But also again, I did speech and debate. Like, you're supposed to dress up, like you wear a suit, dress shirt, everything. A lot of guys wear ties and I don't really like regular ties. I think they're kind of boring or like not that cute. And I think also like at the time I was a high school newly out gay person who like really wanted to explicitly express that queerness through clothing and like gender presentation, like whatever. And so I like wore a lot of bow ties. I learned how to tie bow ties. It was a whole thing. I would wear them even just like to school in polo shirts, which now is like insane. But yeah, I really love this tie. It's like metallic and very pretty. The pattern is like not consistent, so there's lots of like visual interest. Unfortunately, it also has like a little stain on the front, I think because a dog once took it and I was very sad. But yeah, I still wear this one a lot when I can. If I go to like your wedding or whatever, I am probably wearing this bow tie in the pictures. And it was also my good luck charm in high school. So it's like during speech and debate tournaments, if I was like in like the final round of something, or if it was like the thing that's going to determine if you're going to go to like states or something or whatever, I would usually be wearing this bow tie. And lastly, of the things I got from high school is this t-shirt that I'm wearing. I actually got this as a gift. My parents had a college classmate from Shanghai visit LA, and she just like bought a lot of stuff because Western brands and like luxury brands tend to be cheaper in the US relative to in Asia. And she asked me, oh, what's like your favorite store? And so I took her to McQueen, and I was like very excited, just like, ooh, like I don't come here that often, so everything's so beautiful and so cool. Just flipping out. And she asked me like what my favorite thing in the store was, and I like pointed to this shirt, and she offered to buy it, and I was like so moved, and I was like, I cannot believe you are buying this for me, like that's insane. It's so expensive. What are you doing? To thank her, I was like, I have to do something. And so I remember I took an index card, I drew a flower and wrote thank you on it, and I was just like I hope this is like enough to show you like at least how much I appreciate this gesture. And I was able to like respond in Mandarin, which for me is like really props to you. Like my Chinese sucks. But yeah, I just really appreciated that whole thing, and I really still love that like family friend. When I went to China 4 years ago, maybe even 5 at this point actually, she was the only person during that whole trip that asked me about my relationship with Jasper. A lot of other people asked my brother like, oh, when are you gonna visit with your girlfriend, blah blah blah. And I was like, I realize he's older, I realize his relationship is like 4 or 5 months longer than my own. But I was just like, oh, everyone is very invested in his romantic life, and no one seems to care about mine. And that was like particularly saddening to me, just because I was like already very serious about my relationship with Jasper, and I'm psychotic, so I was like, this is gonna be forever. Like, why are you not trying to engage with me at all? Like, what is this homophobia? But anyways, like, yeah, so like, she was the only one, and I was really grateful to have that conversation with her, and I love her for that. After this t-shirt, I did not buy McQueen stuff for a long time, and it was only when I started my first job and I was up for my second promotion at the job was I like, oh wait, maybe like I can start looking at this again. I didn't even know if I like really want to hop back into all of this. I want to see what this feels like or what it will mean to me to be able to purchase something on my own. And so I picked something out from the website, and then when I got the confirmation for my promotion, I went to the store with a friend and I got this. But yeah, I got this jacket, and I love this jacket. I was specifically looking for something that is very like wearable, because if I'm getting dressed, I'm most likely going to work, and so I want to have something that can work for the office, can work for like leisure, can work for like any kind of situation, and a lot of different types of outfits, but that is still like kind of interesting and fun. And so I like how big and puffy the sleeves are. I love this color, it's so bright and beautiful. And then I also like that it's a little cropped. And one personal thing is that I actually keep the receipt and the tag for this jacket in the pocket at all times. It's kind of just like a reminder of like the milestone, and that maybe I should like trust my intuition or like instincts with things rather than like constantly like doubting what I want. From the lesson with the wool scarf of like, I want to wear the things, like this is kind of like my introduction to like, how do I really take care of an object that means a lot to me? Because generally I am very reckless with my stuff. So the next thing I bought was this silk scarf. And the reason I bought this is because I had a friend who had been wanting a McQueen scarf for a long time, and so because of that, I spent a ton of time just like looking at like a bunch of stores or like websites trying to find like the best deal for him. And so I was just very aware of the prices of the scarves for a while. And in Korea, I went at the McQueen in the airport. I saw this and it was like really discounted and I was like super excited. I was like, I finally found it. The only thing is that like this one has butterflies on the border and that's a little showy for him, so I was like a little worried that he wouldn't like it. So like yeah, eventually over the summer I showed it to him. He was like, yeah, it's not really my style, and so like I kept it. And then now he also has a scarf, so I'm very excited to one day like just like be matchy matchy. But after buying this scarf, I really want to buy something that's like directly related to Lee Alexander McQueen and his time at the brand. In a parasocial way, wanted to have a connection to him. And so, so I spent a lot of time looking at consignment stores, thrift stores, secondhand luxury, all that kind of stuff, basically. And I just wanted to find something that's like from a collection that is really personally meaningful to me, but also like a piece that I could genuinely wear. Like, and that's a little hard, especially as a man buying primarily women's wear stuff, because my shoulders are a little broad for those. Also, it's like specifically like there's a lot of women's wear pieces that I think are so cool and like really amazing, but I know I just wouldn't wear them either based on style or sizing. And I have no interest right now in just buying McQueen stuff to collect it. Like, it's just gonna like sit and rot in my apartment. And I was like, that's a huge waste. I want to have something that I can like really like feel like beautiful in, or like build a relationship with, or like create memories with. And so when I found this, I spent a long time asking all of my friends like, should I buy it, should I buy it? And eventually like, they all said yes, and then I was gonna buy it, and then it got sold. And then like months later, either the same one that got returned or a different version of it eventually came on, and I finally got it. So very painful process of getting this, but now that I have it, I think it's so cool. Like, it's my first like leather piece. It's like this very soft lamb leather. It has like this really cool quilting. It has like this very cute tail at the back, and it's just like very unique and interesting. This is like a for sale version of a runway piece from Plato's Atlantis, which is spring summer 2010, and I'm gonna ramble off just a ton of facts about this collection right now. It's Lee's last collection he completed before passing. It's also the first live stream show, but that's not really true because Gaga tweeted out the link for this show and that caused it to crash because of course. And then Bad Romance is actually the finale song of the show, and in Bad Romance, the music video, Gaga's just wearing a ton of McQueen specifically from this. It's just a collection that like really combines like Gaga and McQueen, which is like, those are like my first steps into like fashion. Those are my first steps into like stanhood. Those are like my first steps into really exploring music that's like not classical piano music that I grew up with. And so it's just like very like personal to me, and I really complete that circle because the first time I wore this in public was when I went to Vegas to see Gaga's jazz residency show. After buying this, I became extremely obsessed with looking at like the Real Real and all those shops, and so the next piece is also from the Real Real. Okay, here I got this beautiful. So I've got this cotton blazer that's like dip dyed, and this is from spring summer 2021 menswear, and I just love this. Like, there's not like a huge deep story, I just like visually think it's so pretty, and it has actually like currently inspired these couple pairs of paintings, at least the iteration they're currently in. These paintings originally started out as like a countdown because since like Jasper and I like started living together almost a year ago, I was like, oh, we're probably gonna get like close to getting engaged. Like, we have now been together for over 6 years, and we've survived COVID, med school, a little bit of residency, a lot of craziness. I just feel like living together, I think we can now start like a real countdown to like the next phase of our relationship. I kind of realized like, oh, like this doesn't feel very personal. Essentially, like the countdown aspect of the piece doesn't connect to like the like intricacies of the relationship. Like, what are like we learning about each other, like what are the ties that we're forming over time that are like changing us as people and the world around us. Basically anything that's like a little more meaningful than the actual days. And so I decided I was gonna paint over that piece entirely. Eventually I'm gonna like figure out like what I really want to say about the next phase of our life whenever we get to that point. I really want to stress that it's like, oh, it will come when we're ready. There is one more piece that is being delivered. And I will wear that next. Okay, so this is the last look, and I got this because I really wanted something from Sarah's last collections with McQueen, which are Fall Winter 2023 Anatomy 1 and Spring Summer 2024 Anatomy 2. And both of those shows are like celebrations and studies of anatomy. The Autumn Winter one is like a lot of tailoring and just like playing with how the cuts of suits can look on the body. And Spring Summer is more of like a celebration of the female form. I tried on a couple pieces. There was this like super cool knitwear look from the Autumn Winter 2023 show that I tried on, but the shape, it's really hourglass, and I think trying that on, it made me very self-conscious actually. Like it has like huge hip pieces, and I felt like on me it just highlighted what I lacked rather than kind of celebrating my own body. Whereas I feel like when I tried this piece on, I was just like, oh, like I feel so comfortable being someone who kind of has had like a journey with accepting my own body. Now I'm very like, okay, I have what I have. I'm just gonna maintain it because there's nothing wrong with my silhouette. And so I think this like really accentuates having a smaller waist. I like that it shows my shoulders. This part kind of pushes my breast, so it looks like I have a chest even though I'm very flat. I'm just like so grateful to like be able to own something from a collection that I love. I watched that show and I was like just like so transfixed, and I'm hopeful that like maybe the new creative director at McQueen will be able to like find a visual language that like speaks to me and is able to continue on the legacy of Lee. But even if that doesn't happen, I am extremely grateful to have the pieces that I do have, in that like I am now a lot more interested in fashion and like curating my style and look because of this brand.